Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And I'm smiling because, yes, it's another day, it's another Lorna Slater story. The woman is so generous. Every time she opens her mouth, it launches 1,000 YouTube videos because she's so damn stupid. Well, today, and literally an hour ago, this is like breaking news, she stood up and she made an outrageous claim that the Scottish Government is not morally or legally responsible and has no obligation to pay any form of compensation to these companies that have invested money on the DRS. Well, of course, just because you stand up there, Lorna, and say these things, and just because you fervently hope in your heart of hearts that it's true, doesn't make it so. And indeed, the courts will decide this when the likes of Bibby and Coke and Irn-Bru and all the other big boys with their whole teams of hugely expensive lawyers are finished with you. Because not only will you have to pay them compensation, you'll have to pay their legal bills. Oh dearie me, this could end up costing the Scottish Government, and sadly by that, the Scottish taxpayer, over £1 billion, because the idiot is an idiot. And she's desperately trying to deflect attention. She's saying things now in the hope that people believe her. And that these big firms will go, oh, well then, obviously, we don't have any compensation because Lorna Slater said so. That's not how it works, Lorna, as well you know. So it doesn't matter how many times you stand up there and repeat these mantras. Nobody believes you because you're a moron. We're going to take a look at this story and go, oh my God, what world does this woman live in? Because it ain't the one we're in. Here goes. Honestly, you couldn't make this up, could you? You just couldn't. Anyway, Scottish Government does not have an obligation to pay the DRS compensation, says Lorna Slater. And there she is. She looks like she's about to conduct an orchestra. But it'll be two men with the old paper and comb and a kazoo. Circular Economy Minister Lorna Slater has once again ruled out compensation for Scots firms that have invested more than $380 million in the delayed deposit return scheme. It's not her place to deny it. It will be the courts. And let me tell you, they will win. They will absolutely win. Answering questions in Parliament, the Green also confirmed that the Scottish Government had taken legal advice before last week's decision to delay the recycling programme until 2025. And the Minister told MSPs that she'd been left in an impossible situation after the UK government's intervention in the troubled scheme. No, you were left in an impossible situation when you opened your big beak about 2 years ago and started telling people to go ahead and invest and do all this before you'd done your work and got the exemption, which should have been the very, very first thing you did. This is all down to you, you silly woman. Under the Scottish Government's plans, the DRS will see each single-use item carry a levy of 20p, which is then refunded when the empty container is returned to retailers in an incredibly stupid way that is open to fraud, which is why it is absolutely hated by everybody. Earlier this month, the UK government made clear the Scottish Government would only be given the necessary exemption to the UK Internal Market Act if they made a number of substantial changes. I mean, we're going to talk about this glass thing, and I have mentioned it before, but it is important, but we'll get there. See, they said, as well as removing glass, they included a demand that ministers in Edinburgh agree to standardise the deposit charge and labelling with other UK schemes. In other words, no matter, they say 20p, if the UK government said, right, it's going to be 50p, in Scotland, they'd have to agree to it. Or if they said it was 10p, they'd have to agree to it. That's one of the things they didn't like. But the main one was glass. Now, one of the reasons the UK government are exempting glass, and this is where I've covered before, but it's worth saying, is that glass is already massively recycled by 90%. And that goes into the glass industry. And the glass industry are brilliant. They're doing this. They're the ones cleaning up the act. They've got this whole wonderful scheme that currently works brilliantly well. And of course, they take that glass and they use that for their profits. What the SNP want is their scheme where they own the glass and sell it back to the glass makers. Well, the glass makers use the free glass because it's not very high quality once it's been used once. So they use it for other things. They're not going to pay to use this glass at a rate that would then make whatever they did with it unprofitable. And so the and so the glassmakers are saying, well, yeah, but you can have that glass, but we're not going to pay you for it. It's only viable because we're getting it for nothing. But the Scottish scheme was, oh, but you're going to pay to get this glass. We're going to pay to transport it and that. And the glassmakers go, no, we already do that. It's all built into our scheme. And they go, and they go, well, no, you've got to pay for it. And of course, the glassmakers are going, no, we don't. We can buy anything we like. We've got no obligation to buy it. And this is one of the fall downs, and this is why the UK-wide scheme is exempting glass, because they know, because they talked to the experts in recycling and in glass, not like dopey McBlondbint who hasn't got a clue what she's doing. Anyway, Miss Slater said the lack of detail around conditions laid down by Whitehall, including not knowing what the deposit charge would need to be, meant the scheme could not go ahead next March as planned. That's a straw argument because the UK scheme isn't coming in until the following year. So you can put whatever price you choose straight away. So you do know the price. So that's more lies. More lies and spin, trying to throw the problem back at the Westminster government, who ain't having none of it. They're not the ones who announced this. During topical questions in Holyrood, Jamie Halcrow-Johnson, the party's Shadow Minister for Business, Trade, Tourism and Enterprise, asked the Minister about the economic impact on businesses across Scotland as a result of the decision not to pay compensation. Miss Slater told MSPs we've been left with no other option than to reset the timescale of the deposit return scheme and delay the launch until October 2025 at the earliest, when the UK government says it will aim to launch its own scheme. She said this is a consequence of the decision by the UK government. Blah, blah, blah. No, this is your problem. This is nothing to do with the UK government. Stop blaming others for your faults. You got this wrong. You fucked this up. Big time styly. And you are the one that needs to take responsibility. It's pointless foisting it onto the UK government. They're just going to point straight back at you. And it is going to be the Scottish companies suing you in a Scottish court of law that will show you exactly whose blame it is. Anyway, a considerable majority of businesses therefore call for the reset of the date to match that of the UK state target of October 25, she said, at the earliest, to reduce the impact of the UK government's decision at the 11th hour. Mr Halcrow-Johnson said money invested by companies had been put at risk because ministers didn't do the work necessary to prepare for the scheme, and they then refused to listen to business when it was clear to everyone except apparently Lorna Slater, that the rollout was a shambles. It was not even the rollout was a shambles. Oh, zip that. It was a shambles from day one. Every aspect, every decision made was the wrong decision. She didn't call in the experts. She didn't speak to the glass industry. She didn't speak to the recycling people. She didn't take any advice. She took advice from her friends, sitting in the pub, drinking gin or something. She took every decision that could have been made. She took the wrong decision. She brought things in that should never been in. She brought it in too quickly before it was even feasible. She didn't do the groundwork. She didn't get the impact statements. And she didn't put the paperwork into the UK government for the exemption. Whose fault's this? This is none of it the UK government. They didn't propose this scheme. Lorna Slater is a nincompoop of the first order, and she will pay dearly for her mistakes. Anyway, I'm not going to go on and talk about her. She's done. She is such. I don't know how she functions. Literally, don't know how she functions as a human being by being that stupid. I mean, she is definitely bottom quartile, isn't she, on a bell graph? Any kind of bell curve of intelligence, she's way to the left on this. Anyway, I'll round off and come up. I must admit, I do admire her optimism. Her optimism that all is going to be well and it's going to be paid for by the Westminster government and nothing's going wrong. You know, that world of denial. And it's great to watch it now because you know it is going to crumble. It is going to fall apart. She will be a broken woman when the court cases start hitting and the Scottish government is on the hook for maybe £1 billion. And they'll all be looking at her, and everyone in Scotland who pays tax will be looking at her, and everyone in Scotland whose NHS is going to get slightly worse, whose social care is going to get slightly worse, you know, will be looking at her because she will have done it. One woman, one single woman. She is truly astounding. Honestly. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see in here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. Definitely leave a like, really, really helps. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep watching this woman because she is comedy gold. And goodbye.